on our campus. We're a part of recreation and well-being. And then my colleague, Maddie Brown, is our assistant director, and she is also here today. So just a note before we get started, we were really excited that Corinne invited us to do this workshop. We love talking about food. Anyone else love food? Any other? Yeah, yes. But just a note that we are not dietitians. So we sometimes have a dietitian in this role or in our department. We currently don't have one, but Maddie and I are both public health educators. So we think that that's also a good way to talk about nutrition and cooking. And we try to break down concepts in a way that are relatable to students and try to meet you where you're at. And we realize people might be in different places with how they feel about cooking or shopping or prepping or thinking about nutrition. So we hope that, you know, wherever you're kind of at with all those concepts, that you can get something out of this and that something really resonates with you, to kind of energize you to think about how you prepare food that you enjoy and how you might plan for that and shop for food that you enjoy. All well on a college budget, because we know that that's a very real situation that college students are in. So I guess to get started, just if you could type in the chat, you know, where do you eat your food throughout the day? So I think I see many of you in residence hall, so you probably eat many of your meals at the hub. Maybe give us a sense of like kind of what the breakdown is. Are you eating all your meals at the hub, or are you eating half your meals at the hub, preparing half your meals? If you're in an apartment, are you preparing all your food on your own? Kind of give us a little breakdown in the chat about what that looks like for you. Okay, at the hub and also in your room. Elizabeth, you can either type back or unmute. Does that mean in your room you're preparing your own food, or are you taking some from the hub to eat in your room? Can you take food out of the hub right now? Yes, okay. I love that new COVID rule. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
So I sometimes make food in the basement and then bring it to my room. Okay.
Yeah, so you prepare a little bit on your own. That's awesome. Half and half. Okay, hub and kind of preparing on your own. Perfect. Any other thoughts? I see some typing. Okay, perfect. So, okay, so some of both, and yeah, across campus. Okay, in the iSub, cook once in a while, a mix. Okay, so it sounds like quite a bit of a mix. And some of you who are eating at the hub this year may decide to live off campus next year. So then you'll really be planning and shopping for and preparing more of your own food. So I definitely hope that this helps for those of you in that situation as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. I kind of like to break down kind of eating and enjoying food on a college budget into these 3 steps. And it's not just if you're on a college budget, this is for everyone. First, we have to plan, right? We have to plan what we even need. We have to shop for that. Some people like that. Some people that's a really big stressor for, and kind of your situation might play into whether you enjoy that or not. And then we have to cook. And sometimes this last step is left out. We have to enjoy food. Food is meant to be enjoyed, right? It's meant to, you know, really serve all of our different senses, and it builds, enjoying food builds community. We often do so with other people. You know, a lot of social gatherings are revolve around food. So that enjoyment piece is really important. And you might find that you're really good at one of these 3 steps and not so good in others. Or maybe you're kind of struggling in all 3 areas, or really awesome in all 3 areas. So that's okay. This is a time when you're learning. Something that I encourage you to think about in our philosophy in Vandal Health Education is there's no right or wrong way to do any of these things. And there's no good or bad foods. And so all foods are meant to be enjoyed and have a place in our day-to-day lifestyle. So just go into kind of what we're going to talk about with that. The goal is to find what works for you and to be able to eat foods you enjoy and still meet any nutrition goals you have or budget goals that you have. Let's see. So we're going to keep kind of these 3 steps in mind as we kind of go through the rest of the workshop. And we have some different activities, some different resources that I'll probably just put all of them in the chat at the end, and I can also send them to you, Corinne, to share out, to kind of help you along these three different steps. So the first thing you have to do is plan what you're eating, right? I don't know if in your current positions where you're kind of mixing and matching, if you meal plan, but it could be good to start. Like, I'm gonna, lunch I always eat at the hub, or lunch I always eat in the ISUB. And I always eat breakfast in my room, and here's what I need to shop for. And I always eat dinner at the hub. Whatever that breakdown is for you, this could be a helpful way to think about that. And then certainly when you're out on your own, planning ahead, your schedule for meals is going to be important. So we want to aim for those 3 meals a day, sometimes challenging. You don't need to disclose whether or not you remember to eat all 3 meals, but that really helps us get the different nutrients we need throughout the day so that our body knows that food is coming, rather than kind of storing that food because it's afraid it's not going to get another meal. And we'll talk about some resources if there are concerns with even being able to access food for those 3 meals. So we'll talk about that as well. And then in addition to those 3 meals, anywhere from 1 to 3 snacks a day, kind of depending on, when you wake up and when you go to bed, maybe whether you're doing something active that day. So 1 to 3 snacks a day is a good thing to shoot for as well. And then balancing that through the different food groups throughout the day. And we'll talk about that as well. The other thing as we're planning is consistency is important. And, we realize that there's some very real challenges. I talked about access challenges, but also, is anyone like just across campus pretty much all day sometimes? And just getting to the place where you can eat food might be a challenge, especially now. I understand we need to be careful with COVID, but there's like nowhere to eat food in a public setting. So I'm like, how does that work? You have to like eat in between meetings or classes, so there are some very real challenges, and that's why planning ahead is very important, especially as you start to move off campus. It can add up to eat all your meals on campus if you're not on a meal plan. So how are you packing ahead for that? So that consistency piece is important. And as you're planning, also considering, what do you feel like eating? What do you like to eat? What do you enjoy? When will you have time to prep or prepare that food? Can you do, if you want to make something that's maybe more elaborate, does it make sense to make that on the weekend and eat it throughout the week? Or do you have more time during the week, maybe than you do even on the weekend? So thinking about when you're gonna prepare that food. The other thing that's really cool about being a college student is now's the time you're building these habits. So it's a really good time to think about this and think about, okay, for some of you, it looks like a lot of you in the residence halls, this might be your first or second year here on campus, really on your own for the first time, making these decisions. So you're at a prime spot in your life to be making these decisions, even if it seems like a lot to think about. And then the last thing when we talk about building good habits is really we want to focus on, as we're thinking about consistency, is listening to our body's cues. So our body tells us when it's time to eat. We have full and hunger cues. So really listening to that and cueing into that. Never do we promote not eating when you're hungry or making it to the next meal, right? How can we make sure that we're listening to those full and hunger cues is really key as well. So that plan is still so important. We'll throw a link to this in the chat, but any version will do. I just kind of jot it down for myself. And we'll talk about some other strategies. So you're not needing to, when you're out on your own, you're not going to need to make breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day from scratch, right? We have some strategies to, stretch kind of what you're making, so you don't feel like you're always prepping food, unless you love preparing food and you want to do that, because some people really do, but for others, it's kind of a burden. Okay. Also part of the plan is considering some of these different nutrition ideas, right? We want to kind of incorporate some of these different strategies as we're planning. So you may have seen my plate, and we're going to share some graphics on the next slide, because we realize that not everyone's plate will look like this. Like my plate isn't always a main dish, a carb or a main protein, a grain, and half veggies, right? It's not always like quadrant it out like that. Like if you eat something that's mixed or a bowl or a stew, like it's not going to look like this. So this is just to help us get us thinking about, okay, throughout the day, are we eating about half of our intake in fruits or vegetables? And that's, for some, that's really aspirational. I know I don't do that every day. And so if you're like, whoa, what, half of it? Don't worry. Just think about how you can add a little bit more into those areas each day. So about half your plate. And again, kind of, it doesn't have to be every meal, kind of about half of what you're eating throughout the day really could be fruits or vegetables for optimal nutrients. There's also that saying, eat the rainbow. Has anyone heard that? Yeah, where you want to try to get a variety of different colors. And that's because those foods have different nutrients. And our bodies just use those different nutrients in different ways. So it can even be something as basic like peppers. There's all those different kinds of peppers, and those colors all have different nutrients. So it doesn't have to be like purple carrots, or I don't know, try to think of a colored food that's less common. And really a variety of fresh, frozen, and canned is totally fine. Sometimes one maybe gets a bad rap over the other, but all are fine. So just mixing kind of that fresh, frozen, and canned based on budget, based on what's available, based on what tastes good to you. And that's a great way to incorporate a variety as well. So then you can see about a quarter of what you eat maybe in a meal or throughout the day is going to be that proteins. That would include your meats, your dairies, your beans, nuts, yogurts, cheeses. And then another quarter is those grains. And a good goal is to try to make about half your grains whole grains. And you can see that we don't like to be too prescriptive because that can be challenging. So when I say about, I don't mean 2 servings of whole grains a day, 2 servings of non-whole grains a day, right? Just an average. Like just think, oh, I want to try the whole wheat bread today. And mixing it in that way is totally fine. So there's some other examples of whole grains there. You can see this My Plate version, suggests water. And we'll talk about beverages and how they can be costly here in a little bit. You can mix in healthy oils, and certainly what's not on here, but an important part of enjoying our food is spices and that flavor. So that's a really good way to mix up and really enjoy our food. And that certainly you can add all the spices you want. So this can be important to think ahead about kind of what your plate, again, plate in air quotes, because it might look different, or you might be, again, not eating a snack on a plate, but just kind of what you're intaking. Does it kind of have this breakdown? And we just have some different pictures to show what that might look like. These are pictures from the Institute of Family Health. They show some different ways you might combine foods with the My Plate method. It doesn't always have to be like broccoli, chicken breast, and brown rice. That's kind of boring. And that's sometimes what we see when we see these My Plates. So these are just some different foods. And then also some mixed dishes. So these are quadranted out. Again, you do not need to draw quadrants on your plate, but just to give you an idea, like we're not only talking about one type of vegetable, it's really all of these different types of vegetables. And mixed dishes count. And so we just like to show these pictures to remind students that it's not kind of that, I don't know, that government version of the My Plate that you see. It can be any combination of veggies and proteins and grains. And that's really what we want to try to stress here. Any questions about that? Cool. Okay. We're going to get into an activity here in a little bit. We have a couple activities. So this one, or the next step, is shopping. How many of you like to grocery shop? Okay. Oh yeah, okay. So I saw a lot of yeses. And those of you who don't have your camera on, you're welcome to type in the chat or throw up the, oh my gosh, the icon thing. Yes, like that. Thanks, Beatrice. And how many of you aren't sure? I saw everyone on video said they like to shop. So a couple of you might be not sure. And that's okay too. So let's all learn from each other a little bit. In the chat, go ahead and type, what are some of your favorite grocery shopping strategies? If you think you have any kind of savvy shopping strategies, go ahead and put those in the chat, or you can unmute yourself if you'd like. Oh, good one. Buy cold foods last. Yes. Yeah. Get what I need and then what I want. Great. Okay. So does that mean you kind of get what you need? And then if you have maybe some budget left over, or yeah, you might be going for what you want. Perfect. Beatrice, did you have a question, or is that from the you like to shop?
Yeah, it's from that I like to shop. I
Okay.
don't know why it's still there.
That's okay. No worries. Any other ideas? Okay, so we'll go ahead and keep those coming if something comes to your mind as we go forward. We'll just share some of our favorite strategies. Some of these we've actually put in here because students have shared them with us. So just a good kind of compilation of things to keep in mind. And we will also put a list in, or a kind of a shopping list template in the chat as a resource as well, because having a list is an important piece of that grocery shopping. I don't know, do you, so those of you who I can see, or if you can raise your hand, do you shop, raise your hand if you shop with a list? Okay, awesome. And some of you might not shop with a list. So if you find yourself kind of wandering the store, just grabbing what you want, and then getting home and being like, oh, what am I going to do with this? Or how am I going to ever eat this? Or this looked good at the time and now it doesn't sound good. Having a list can be helpful. So making sure that you keep it where you can see it throughout the week can also be important, especially as you are doing more of your own meals, maybe next year if you're in your own apartment. That can be helpful to make sure that you're staying within your budget and buying things that you need to get through the week. Let's see. So some ideas that we have here. Oh, sorry, there's the first one. Another idea is buying generic, not name brand. So generic is like the store brand. Winco's store brand is called Winco. Some store brands like Walmart is Great Value. Our little store back in Eastern Oregon is Western Family. That might be one that you've seen. So that store brand is often the exact same thing as name brand. They just don't pay all the money for the marketing. So you're not as familiar with it. Maybe you don't see commercials for it, and they hide it not at eye level. So at eye level, you're going to see name brand, but that's going to be more expensive. And oftentimes the exact same thing as the store brand. So when you can, or when you want, buy generic and store brand. That's going to save you some money. If you prefer the taste and name brand for something, buy a name brand. But that's just a strategy that you can use to get to stretch your dollar a little bit further. The next one is to hit discounts and deals. The thing with discounts and deals, though, is to buy things that you'll actually use. So I'm trying to think of something that always just dies in my produce drawer, like a bag of, oh gosh, I don't know. Sometimes I'm bad at like, oh, I should really eat more. I'm going to put like zucchini in this recipe. I hate zucchini, but sometimes I'm like, it's a good way to bulk something up. And they just shrivel. And so if you're buying something on sale just because like you think you should, or it's a good deal, but you won't use it, that's really not saving you money, right? But say meat's on sale. Say you were going to make beef tacos, but chicken is on a really good deal and you know that you'll use it. So that week, maybe a couple of your recipes have chicken in it. I think Corinne said one of you already suggested this idea where you buy one thing and you use it multiple times rather than that same week buying chicken, beef, and pork, right? That's really going to add up. So especially if something's on sale or discount, that's a great time to do that. You can also look for student incentives. I think the only store in Moscow that offers this is the Co-op, where they offer 10% off for students on Friday, which is great if you need something at the Co-op, but keep in mind that the Co-op is already a bit more expensive than any other grocery store in town. So don't go just for the 10% off, but they might have something there that you want, or maybe you have a little extra spending money and you want to buy this certain type of food item. I always spend my extra money on food because I love food. So that's a great way as well. And some bigger areas, I think, have more student driven options. Let's see. So another idea is to buy things like spices or staples in bulk, and it's going to help you save money in the long run. and just again, make sure that you're doing this with things that you'll use and that you use frequently. You know, spices in bulk at Winco or even the co-op or Rosars are going to be much more affordable than buying that plastic jar. I don't know why that is. I guess the packaging cost. The other strategy I like to share with students is when you're home, if your mom or dad or grandmother has a lot of spices and you know that you'll just need some for when you make something here, just grab some and put it in a baggie if they're fine with that. That's just a great way. Those containers though are so expensive. So buying in bulk is great. And then staples in bulk, you know, dried goods, rices, grains, beans, they're more affordable that way. Again, just make sure you use them. If you're more likely to use them from a can or prepackaged, do it that way, right? Don't just buy something that's going to go to waste. I think that's a key thing here. So yeah, stocking up on staples and stuff when they're on sale is a good strategy as well. Another thing, and I meant to put a picture in here and I forgot, but looking at unit pricing. Are you all familiar with kind of unit pricing? I meant to put a label. I can't remember if we have one in the game or not, but on a label, say there's a giant package of something and a small package of something, it's going to have the unit pricing sometimes per ounce, per pound, and you can easily compare the two, right? You can see which one's the better deal. Sometimes they'll have with a small package on sale and it's actually the better deal to buy like 3 of them than the big one. So just compare that unit pricing and that can be a really good strategy as well. This is that idea, or sorry, this is a different idea. The next one's coming, but doubling up. So, you know, if maybe there's a week where you're really trying to stretch your food dollar, consider buying things that are both high in protein and that grain. So quinoa, lentils, oats, those are all high in both grains and protein. So it can really be an effective way to bulk up that nutrients and help your food dollar. This is the one thing we were talking about, buying one thing and making multiple things with it. So for example, you might buy chicken and make tacos, put it on a salad, add it to a pizza. Or you might buy English muffins and make egg sandwiches, microwave pizza, add peanut butter to it, right? There's different ways to eat things. And then, so that week, maybe instead of buying pizza crust and bread and English muffins, you're just buying English muffins. I was trying to remember the example I gave. Let's see, type in the chat if you have other things that you like to kind of buy once and use in a variety of ways. Yes, I see that, Beatrice, I get that too. You go with a list and sometimes end up leaving more than what you went for. I actually really like using grocery pickup. Yes, Alyssa, peanut butter. I put peanut butter on anything. I love that. Grocery pickup can be helpful and there's nothing wrong with taking a list to the store and coming up with more than you need. You know, if you're within your food budget and you like that and you're going to eat it. But if you find yourself kind of like, oh, I have all this food I'm not going to eat, or it's just going to waste, or you just want more convenience, you can do grocery pickup, and then it adds it, right? It adds it up right there, and you can see how much you're spending and delete things from your cart before you place your order. So that's a kind of a money saving strategy too. I love that idea for peanut butter though. All right, moving along. Let's see. You know, avoiding convenience food and impulse buys if they're not things that you want or would otherwise buy. So pre-mixed, pre-cooked, pre-made food might save time, but you might be paying a premium for that. So buy those things if you like them, and use them strategically, right? Use them on a night where you have lab and you know you're not going to be home till 7 and really want a quick dinner idea. So that can be a strategy to use as well. All right, and then there at the bottom, we have just a breakdown of kind of an average. For every $25 you spend on food, here's kind of how you can expect it to be broken down. So sometimes we hear that fruits and veggies are really expensive, and they can be. However, be realistic with your expectations. They, on average, might be about half of your food dollars spent on fruits and veggies, and that's okay, and that's to be expected. You know, according to the USDA, a college-age student who's making all their meals, so this is something to look forward to if you're not currently making all your meals, should plan to spend around $50 to $70 a week on groceries. That's kind of in that moderate category. So some folks can absolutely buy what they need for less, and some might need a little bit more. So if this is unrealistic for you, think about how we can also use the Vandal food pantry, which Maddie will talk about. Can you get some of your meals from programs and events on campus? I know that's a great way to kind of supplement the food you're needing to make as well. And you can also kind of get a more specific calculator. There's a great Idaho, Eat Smart Idaho site that you can put in specific details about yourself and kind of get a food breakdown and with what to expect. So it's time for our first game. So this is an old TV show that is even before my time. Has anyone seen Supermarket Sweep? I really don't even know what it's about. I think it's just about.
I have.
Yes. What's it about? Savvy shopping?
It's actually about like they go to the supermarket and they just go to buy stuff, and then they buy stuff and then they try to cook with it. So I'm thinking about the right show.
Okay. Yes. So we're going to test your shopping skills. We're going to test your shopping on a budget skills. So to do that, you just need to go to kahoot.it, either on your laptop there or on a mobile device. My lights just went out because I'm not moving. And then, oops, I got to pull up the game pin. So go to kahoot.it. Oh. Okay, sorry about that. Here we go. All right, can you all see the Kahoot screen? Cool. All right, so the game pin you're going to put in is 4316154. And then you can enter, I can't remember if it lets you pick a nickname or it just automates it. You can listen to the fun music. So go ahead and put in your nickname there, or, yep, there's one. Oh, it must automate them. So you can find your, these are great. We'll just wait another minute or so, see if anyone else wants to join us. Go ahead and type in the chat or unmute if you're having a hard time. Okay. Unmute if you are trying to get in, otherwise we are going to start. Okay, we're going with these 5. Here's the Savvy Shopper quiz. So you'll get options on your phone or your device to choose from. So this is a true or false. When comparing 2 products, the larger size is always the better value. True or false? And it is timed. All right, this is false. It's not always the better value. Sometimes it is, usually it is, but that's where you want to make sure that you're looking at that unit pricing, which again, I need a picture. We need to add a picture to this, Maddie. A picture, or sorry, that's where you want to compare that unit pricing, and you'll see that on a label, just to make sure it is the better value, because sometimes they'll trick you. All right, Expert Elk. Oh, yep, Expert Elk in the lead. Okay, this one has multiple options. When making a bowl of oatmeal for yourself, which is the better value? Instant oatmeal in pre-measured packets, measuring out and cooking oats from a large tub, purchasing at Starbucks. Ah, you all are savvy, absolutely. And I always say those packets can be good to have on hand if you just know you like oatmeal and you won't make it from the tub. That's fine, but just know that that is definitely the better deal to make it that way. Purchasing from Starbucks is definitely the most expensive one. All right, Expert Elk still in the lead, but Magic Wallaby not far behind. Okay, this one's true or false. When a product is on sale for $3 for $5, you must buy 3 items to enjoy that discount. Ooh, split. This is actually false. They trick you into buying all three, when really it's the same price if you just bought one. We really should pick an option that's easy math. So that'd be like 160-ish. And so if you have to buy three, it will say that. So sometimes it does say like must buy three to get this deal, but if it doesn't, you don't have to. So that's a good way to save money. The picture of the avocado is there because I love avocado, but they also do rot on my counter sometimes. And they're so expensive sometimes. So don't buy them if you won't use them. All right, let's see. Ooh, Stellar Raven, not far behind Expert Elk. Which is the better buy? Ooh, pretty split answers. It depends. That was kind of a trick question. You know, it depends on what's in season. It depends on sales. It depends on unit pricing. So sometimes you can get fresh fruits and veggies at a great deal, you know, especially if they're in season in your area. Oftentimes you pick places, at least here in Moscow. And so it really just depends on a lot of things. So you can kind of scout out, you know, which do you prefer frozen, which do you prefer fresh, which do you prefer canned, and kind of shop around for what works best. Okay, we have one more after this. Expert Elk is still in the lead. What is most likely the better value? A tub of fresh celery that is prepped and chopped. You can get them in like little plastic tubs, or a bunch of fresh celery. Oh, you all are on it. Yeah, the fresh celery is going to be the better deal. And so if you have the time and capacity to chop it yourself, that's going to go farther, and it's going to be probably a little fresher too. All right, so let's see who gets the podium. Third place, Stellar Raven. Second place, Magic Wallaby. First place, Expert Elk. All right, I see some high fives. Alyssa, is that you? Nice. Who was Magic Wallaby? Yes. All right, and who was Stellar Raven?
That was me, Iris.
Ah, awesome. Okay, nice job, everyone. I hope you learned a little bit something new. And now I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, and Maddie is going to take it from here. Oh, am I still sharing? What am I sharing now?
Stop. You're still on your internet browser with Kahoot.
Thanks.
Okay, there we go. All right, so now that we've taken some time to think about shopping savvy, we're thinking about kind of what our plate should include just throughout the day. Again, it does not have to be that rigid, you know, sections of different types of foods, but let's think about cooking easy, simple recipes that we truly enjoy, right? And I know a lot of us are in the residence halls. There's a lot of mix of making meals myself, going to the hub and getting food. So let's think, okay, next year when I'm in an apartment, I'll have to cook for myself. So let's brainstorm some ideas for easy, simple recipes. So put in the chat, first of all, what's your favorite meals to cook? And these can be easy. These can be maybe longer, time-consuming recipes with some fancy ingredients. What's your favorite? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Favorite meals to cook. I think mine might just be like a roasted vegetable and like rice, because it's simple. I can make it on a sheet pan pretty much and it's done. Tuna and tortilla chips. Nice. I've not had that combo. I'll have to try that. Shrimp Alfredo. Oh, I love anything covered in Alfredo. So rich and good. Scrambled eggs and toast, a classic chorizo and eggs. Absolutely. These are really great simple meal recipes because a lot of them have just a few ingredients, and that can make it really simple to just whip it up. I mean, how many of us have, you know, come home from a long day of classes or work and you're just starving, right? And maybe don't feel like cooking, you know, as much as you'd want to on a night where you're not so tired. So in an effort to reduce costs, think ahead about planning. I know we spent a lot of time at the beginning of this workshop thinking about planning. So let's practice putting together quick, easy meals from a list of ingredients. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the next slide and I'll show you an example of a breakout room activity that we're going to do. So again, let's say you just got home from a long day on campus. You have the following ingredients laying around in your pantry at home. You're starving. You also have one special secret ingredient that you get to decide what that is, and you have to make a quick, easy dinner from this ingredient list here. You can use all these items, you can use some of them, and of course, add in any spices, sauces, condiments that you know you love and also have on hand, right? These are just foods. Spices really make the dish, things like that. So throw those in. We are going to put you in a breakout rooms, Corinne, if you're able to do that. Maybe we'll do about 3 or 4, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 in a room for about 2 minutes. And then come back, well, decide in your groups what special ingredient that you're going to have as a group, decide what you're going to make, and then we'll come back and share what you all thought of. And then we'll decide who has the most unique recipe. How about that? Again, don't make this hard. No special ingredients or, cooking equipment or tools required. Simple, easy recipes.
Hey y'all, I am creating the breakout rooms.
Awesome.
Please stand by just a second.
Please stand by. Yes, of course.
Okay.
Looks like Alyssa and Gailey want to be in the same group.
Okay.
As
Yeah, they're
they're
in the same room. The audio might get kind of funky.
Oh, that's true.
So it's like you're on the U of I cooking show.
Top Vandal.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna make these groups a little bit smaller. I think I'm making them a little big.
Sounds
Okay, this one. And Emily and Maddie, do you want to be in groups as well? Do you want me to
good. Way. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, oh, here comes everyone. Yeah, it looks like everyone's back, Maddie.
Perfect. Okay, so let's just all take 10, 15 seconds to kind of share out what really simple recipes did we come up with. I'm going to volunteer Dustin because I told him ahead of time that I totally would, and he's going to share what our group came up with. If you're there, Dustin.
Yeah. Okay. So for our group, I decided to do like a spring roll wrap, and that's perfect for the ramen, the carrots, and the spinach. We just wrap that up in there, and they're raw, so you don't even have to cook it. You just get it wet, wrap it up in there. And then for a condiment, sriracha would probably be pretty good, or some kind of like salty soy sauce, peanut sauce. Yeah. That's about it.
Yeah, we were hungry, I think, in our room. But all right, anyone else want to share? What did they come up with in their group?
So for my group, we said we would do like an omelet with like the eggs, the spinach, and the carrots. And then as like a side thing, we would do a piece of bread with the bananas and like add like sugar and cinnamon for spices. I don't know if you call sugar a spice, but it's the topic of, I don't know. But
it can be for sure. Yeah.
And our secret ingredient was going to be cheese. So we just put on top of the omelet and everything.
Cheese, the finishing touch.
Yes, always.
On so many dishes. Yes. That sounds delicious. Any other group want to share? What'd you come up with?
So we thought of like a ramen bowl. So we'd put like the ramen obviously with the carrots, the egg, the spinach, and then like whatever meat we had at like when we're making it. But yeah, that's what we did.
I love ramen. You're all making me so hungry, but I love these ideas. Is there any other groups out there that maybe wanted to share? Did we get everyone? Perfect. I don't see anyone speaking up. I want to leave plenty of time to talk about resources. So we might skip our second breakout room activity, but thank you all for participating. Hopefully this gave you a good kind of sense of, okay, this is what I got. This is what I could do. Quick, easy, fun, and I can enjoy it. So this was our kind of second ingredient list. We thought, sometimes we have random stuff, yogurt, beans, apples, tortillas. Some ideas that you can come out of this are chicken and bean burritos, right? If you also have cheese on hand as your special secret ingredient, throw some of that on there. You may consider other things too, like tortillas with peanut butter and apple. That can be a really fun and different way to use tortillas if you don't normally eat those in that way. And lastly, things like chicken and lettuce wraps, where you can really throw whatever veggie or spice or dressing you have on hand. So just really quick, easy, simple ideas. And when it comes to navigating the hub, when it comes to navigating the hub, consider using My Plate or just kind of those original graphics we looked at the beginning that kind of say, okay, half your plate should be veggies, grains, protein, fruits. Again, we know that not all plates are going to look like that every time, and that's totally fine, but consider using that as a way to consider a balanced meal or a balanced snack. Consider using the mix and match stations. I know that the simple serving station usually is completely allergen free and usually minimally processed as well. So if that is really appealing to you, absolutely utilize that station. And then lastly, consider whole fresh foods, things that have been minimally processed, as those are going to provide the most nutrients to you. And then I also want to highlight some resources. If you have questions about these things, please unmute and interrupt me, throw them in the chat. I see that I made a yogurt tzatziki sauce the other day in the chat. Ooh, yes, that is good stuff. And you can put that on anything, right? Salad, chicken, other meat, grains even. Absolutely. Great. Thanks for sharing. So we have some resources on the Vandal Health Education page. There's some cooking videos, other great planning, shopping, and cooking tips from one of the U of I extensions called Eat Smart Idaho. They have really comprehensive just guides and information about shopping on a budget, planning meals, cooking easy recipes, just like we were thinking about here today. So consider looking at some of these cooking videos. We also have some cool Instagram accounts that we want to highlight. These are dietitians, and oftentimes they have really cool tips for getting the most nutrients out of your food and making them easy and quick to prepare. I also want to highlight nutrition workshops coming up. These are hosted by the dietetic students in the U of I Family and Consumer Sciences College on behalf of Vandal Health Education. So the next one is coming up next week. It's called Intuitive Eating, and this really helps us. It's going to be focused around listening to hunger and fullness cues, how to make the most out of your daily eating, and things like that. You can register for these workshops at uidaho.edu/VHE workshops. They're really informative, and I always learn something when I go. I also want to turn your attention to grocery store tours. If you want to go to the next slide. So these are really unique opportunities. They're really fun to learn how to shop for nutrition options on a low budget at the grocery store. So actually in the store. That's a great way to look at those unit pricings that we kind of talked about earlier, like looking at those labels, deciding if buying in bulk is worth it. And I mean, of course it's going to be, but looking at the different prices of things is really helpful to do in the store. There are two more opportunities for you all to take advantage of these. One is at Winco and one is at Safeway. You'll want to register ahead of time to kind of reserve your spot, and you can do that at uidaho.edu/grocery. And these are really helpful if you're considering that. I also want to talk about the Vandal Food Pantry. So sometimes students find that they are in a pinch when it comes to accessing or affording or just generally getting enough food. So the Vandal Food Pantry is a dedicated U of I resource for that concern and that challenge. They're operating out of the back side of the Pittman building, so the west side, in that kind of back curbside pickup area. You can walk up, drive up, bike up, and they provide you food based on how many people are in your household. So It's open to all students, faculty, staff. You can take as much as you need. The only question that they'll ask you is how many people you're taking for. So you can take for yourself, your roommates, family members, if you have kids, things like that. You can take as much food as you need. And these are the hours up here on your screen. You can also find that at uidaho.edu/food pantry. Every first Wednesday of the month, they have the mobile food pantry where they're able to offer a much better selection of perishable foods. So these are the fresh fruits and veggies, meats, dairy, protein, eggs, cheese, things like that, frozen foods. So you want to be sure to access that if you need to when those happen that first Wednesday of each month. All right, any questions about the resources so far? Go ahead and throw them in the chat. Or unmute, whatever speaks to your soul.
This out with you, Corinne, as well as all the handouts I was mentioning. It doesn't look like I'm able to put them in the chat, which is totally fine. I'll just send them to you, Corinne, if that's okay. Cool.
Yes, definitely. Oh, and one quick note, I was going to type in the chat, but I thought I'd just shout it out. One thing we hear a lot from students is like about the Vandal food pantry is like, oh, well, someone else needs that food. And definitely, I mean, you know, there's so much to go around. They're restocked really often. So even, you know, we have a food pantry location in the Student Diversity Center. And even if it's like, oh, I forgot my lunch today, I want to grab a snack, like you can use that food anytime.
Yes, that's absolutely right, Corinne. We hope that students aren't feeling, oh, well, someone else is struggling worse than me, someone else needs it more, because everyone's need is valid and everyone is welcome to take as much as they need from any of the pantries and the curbside pickup. Yeah, absolutely.
And I just wanted to end, we've been adding this to the end of all of our workshops, but we won't go into a deep dive into COVID vaccines and availability. If you have questions, you're welcome to visit our U of I website, uidaho.edu/COVID vaccine, to check that out. And sometimes you just need to talk it through with the person. You're welcome to contact me at any time just to kind of talk through what you're reading, because there is a lot of information out there about the vaccines. Not all of it is accurate. So we tried to link to some accurate resources and talk to your healthcare provider if you have questions, or family. That can be a helpful way to make an informed decision. We are adding this because we want to remind students that you do need to get your first dose and your second dose in the same spot. So we're getting kind of on that timeline where you might be thinking about leaving Moscow for the summer, and maybe you get a first dose of Moderna in 2 weeks, and then the second dose isn't until 4 weeks after that. So you might already be gone. So plan ahead and think about that. We just want to remind students about that. And then there's that website there at the bottom, uidaho.edu/COVID vaccine. So again, we know that there are a lot of questions about it. Maybe you already are certain one way or the other, but definitely feel free to look at that and ask questions if you have them. But other than that, I can stay on later for COVID vaccine questions, but if you have any nutrition questions or comments or things that you want to bring up, we are happy to answer that. We also just ask that you, I was going to try to put that in the chat. I'll have to exit out and put it in the chat. Do this quick eval. This helps us improve our programs. It helps us sorry, I can't do two things at once. Sometimes I can, then I couldn't. Helps us enhance our programs, helps us really make sure that we're meeting student needs with these different workshops. So definitely take a few minutes after this to click into that Qualtrics link and give us your feedback. But thank you so much for being here and engaging with us tonight. This was great.
Gosh, thank you both, Emily and Maddie, so much. Yeah, absolutely. Any handouts or resources you send our way, I'll make sure that those go out to the students.
Thank you. Thanks, Karen.